Welcome everybody to Caregiving Cafe. Today we have Melanie Nash from Alzheimer's Association who's going to share some insights and lots of great information about how to live and work with somebody who has and care for, of course, somebody with dementia or Alzheimer's. So without further ado, thank you for being here. And everybody take note and get questions ready because we have great resources in the room today. So Melanie, thank you so much. The floor is yours.
All right. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, so we do our
Thank
best.
you. All right. My name is Melanie Nash, and I am a community educator and faith outreach representative for the Alzheimer's Association. And my father was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease and Lewy body dementia back in 2009, and he had an 11-year battle with the disease. So he passed away in 2020. And so that made me a long distance caregiver because he lived in East Texas. And during that time, I had 4 children that were, I had one in every school, elementary, middle, and high school. And in fact, I had twins in elementary at that time. So that put me in that sandwich generation, which you may have heard of, caring for, a young family with 4 under 18 and being the weekend warrior to try and alleviate some of the stress off of my mom. And so that gave me kind of a passion place to begin doing this work. And I've been doing it ever since. So I'm happy to be here, pinch hitting for Faith and Jody. So thank you all for having me today. I do want to pivot just a bit and just to let you know, I do work at a local university. So I have, the reason I ask you about the time, Lynn, is that I do have an 11 o'clock class. So,
That'll be perfect. 11,
okay.
yeah, that's fine.
But also, there may have been a slight miscommunication. So you had asked about caregiving resources, and Faith had given me dementia conversations. So I want our time to be as productive as possible. So what I had prepared to talk about was doctor's visits, driving, and legal and financial forms. From what I've heard most of you say is that you're in a caregiving situation. So I want to ensure that, one, you have your financial documents in place. It sounds like you are probably past the point of encouraging your loved one to go to the doctor. It sounds like most people's loved ones are in a facility of some sort, so the doctor visits are being taken care of, and your loved ones are no longer driving. So if that's correct, and Sharon, I do want to make sure that you have all of your documents in place. You indicated that you were kind of coming into this and were looking to gather information. And so just want to make sure everybody's covered on those issues. But if it's okay with you, Lynn, I am totally open to doing sort of a pivot. And if we wanted to just discuss the items that you had originally sent out to everyone about how to address some of those topics, and I'll do my very best. Where
Oh,
are
I
you?
know you will. You can, I think that because we're all dealing with doctors, if you could touch on how to prepare for that doctor's visit, what to ask, what to bring, just to get, I used to have a talk on how to make the most of a doctor's visit.
Absolutely.
So,
So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and go to that section in the presentation. So let me do that. Let me know when you can see it.
we can see it.
Okay, perfect.
And just to also add a little bit, I know that Alzheimer's Association, that's alz.org, the dementia conversations, can you explain a little bit about that? Are they like webinars or support group, or how do family caregivers access dementia conversations?
So you can actually access this presentation and others online at alz.org. And again, our local chapter is capital of Texas. So, but yes, if you go to alz.org and there are in the learning section, there are all of these presentations.
Okay, and thank you. And the reason I said that is because so everybody here can get there directly. A direct line to me is always a better line
Mhm.
going, through the menu and whatever. But I look for these online anyway, and then I send them out by email.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
yeah, so that's why I'd like to know. And another thing, just before we get into, and I put on the chat if anybody wants to look at it, is respite from Alzheimer's Association. I don't know if you want to just briefly touch on that because,
Yes.
and
Yes,
there's
so normally I would do that at the end, but when we have, it is a resource that Alzheimer's Association provides. And there's a slide at the very end that has our phone number, the website, and community resource finder. And so it's just you can snap a picture of it or make note of the phone number. The phone number is 1-800 272 3900, and that will get you, that number is manned 24/7 by master's level clinicians. Oh, and the slide is going without me. It's like, come on. But basically it starts off with going to how to get your loved one to go to the doctor. So I'm going to skip through some of these and just get straight to conversations about going to the doctor. We know that, our loved one might have fear or anger or stigma about going to the doctor, but it's all about getting a proper diagnosis, because I heard someone say they're not sure, they're thinking it's Alzheimer's or dementia, but getting a proper diagnosis is actually a key, right? Because, the treatments for different dementias are different. So you want to have a proper diagnosis, or it could be something totally different. Um, and I tell this story on occasion sometimes, but I was even having some fogginess, and it had to do with I'm a migraine sufferer, and some of the medication that I was taking was giving me some memory issues. And so you want to get, so we don't always have to jump to, a dementia. So we want to get a proper diagnosis, but how do we get a person to the doctor, and what do we need to do?
I think you have to be honest. I think that's the important thing with it. To get a loved one to the doctor, I think you just need to be candid and honest of what are you trying to do. We're trying to understand what we're up against. It's just so important to do that, because you can't battle something that you don't know what you're battling. Again, it may not have been Alzheimer's, it could have been depression, it could have been so many other things. And guess what? There's other things you can do to take care of those issues as well. But that's what you need to be able to do. You can't ignore something. It's not going to go away.
And I did everyone was able to hear the sound?
Yes.
Okay, okay. And so one thing that some tips are, use words that are most comfortable to the person. So it may not be best to say, you've been forgetting things, let's go have you checked out for Alzheimer's or dementia, right? Say, let's go, I noticed some changes in your behavior, let's go and have that checked out. Because some people, when they hear the words Alzheimer's, cancer, those things, those might be triggering type words. So we want to use, different words. And then if they're still fearful or trying to get a person to the doctor, Medicare does have that annual free wellness visit. So using that visit, if you can give the doctor a heads up that you want them tested for the cognitive test that they do, pair it with with an outing. If once you get them to the doctor, make it a pleasant outing. And then this is also important. Invite family to communicate concerns and questions to the doctor. So you want to be prepared when you go, and then they say if it's still if they're still reluctant to go, you can use a therapeutic fib, and that is, like, well, in order to have your prescriptions refilled, we need to go and see the doctor in order to get your prescriptions refilled, and that's the guise of getting them to see a doctor if you've noticed those changes in memory, thinking, and behavior, right? Which is the definition of a dementia: memory changes in memory, thinking, and behavior. And so how do you prepare? You want to take notes. So you want to take notes and have a list of actions that have occurred. And I think you asked that, Lynn, how do you prepare to go to the doctor? And so you want to have like days on and occurrences, so that, this day they may have forgotten to, they left the water running, or they left the stove on, or whatever happened, right? Or didn't pay the bills, or whatever those occurrences were, the things that you have noted, so that the doctor has an accurate view of some occurrences, as to what is going on in your loved
There's
one's
no
life.
exact answer on
Oh,
this is when
sorry.
you stop driving.
That's fine.
You can tell when coming up to an intersection, as an example, the ability to understand what's going on around you was starting to deteriorate a little bit. Being on the highway with cars on both sides becomes a little bit more difficult. And first and foremost, the safety of everybody in the car, as well as other drivers on the road. You think about that, and you want to make sure you're not putting anybody in danger. But then the difficult part is telling your dad, who you love, and he loves driving, and he's used to it, that he can no longer do that. But then even then, taking the keys away full time was very difficult. The doctor was very helpful in just saying, medically, you can't do this anymore. But my mother had the hardest time with this because she knew how much this was going to hurt him as well. And this is one of the first things that we had to deal with as a family when it came to telling my dad that he had to stop doing something because of this disease. That meant a lot to him.
So I'm sorry that I didn't wrap up the segment about going to the doctor before it moved on to driving. So does anyone have any questions about, let me pause the share, about going to the doctor and being prepared for, but I think the key thing is having that log, and having family support, and also having, one thing that I didn't mention is having the FERPA or HIPAA document signed, so that you can access those records, because as you have to have access, and that's again with those legal documents, having that medical power of attorney and the HIPAA release form when you do go to the doctor with your loved one, so that you can have access to their medical history. Anyone have any questions about that?
Best of the doctor's visit.
I actually the test. You're saying what kind of test or ask the doctor that you want him tested. Well, I did that last year, and all they did was ask him, okay, what day is it? What
Who's the president?
Yeah, who's the president? And those things. Well, he can remember those things, but I sort of wanted them maybe to refer me to someone else that would actually running through more
Mhm,
complete or whatever tests.
mhm.
So-
There are, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
There are other doctors like Dr. Bertelson and a couple of others that can do the actual more formal test. To do what I have heard, the proper test is like hours long, 4 hours, 8 hours, whatever. So some people don't want to submit their loved one through that. Some are okay, they can handle it. That's one of the reasons why sometimes they said, no, to put this person through all that, no, too stressful. So, but I think that's why I was saying education. If you read about different types of behaviors, it's much more than memory loss. It's mood swings. It's can they write a check? Can they drive? Their vision is affected. Sense of balance. All of those things. Do they forget where the kitchen is? Do they leave the stove on? You know.
She's
So
going through the 10 warning signs. Lynn, you
well, and here you are, warning signs of Alzheimer's. If you notice these things, and this is actually, I'm so glad you pointed that out, Melanie, because I don't think about this all the time. So every so often I look at it, and I looked at it this morning, but but I actually get a point for remembering what I did remember about those things. Withdraw from work or social activities. It's one of those, but you have to let the doctor. I mean, I'm not a doctor. I'm not, because some of those things overlap with dementia or anxiety.
Yes.
So
And that's why it's key to have that. I saw my mother doing this before I started working or taking the training, and she had her little notebook and she wrote down, you know, his name was Ross. Ross missed the turn to church. He'd been going to that church for 70 years. Missed the turn on such and such a day. Let the didn't turn off the stove, and water boiled, the pot boiled dry, burned the pot. So she had her logbook of things that had occurred with my father, so that when she went in, it was like, look, this is what is going on. And again, and yes, the doctor did say, what year is it, da da da, but because she had some concrete things, he was able to get that referral to the neurologist. And so I think sometimes you have to be your loved one's best advocate, that no, I want more, and and push for that diagnosis. Because, and again, particularly if it's early, and I know a lot of you are maybe deeper into it now, but the reason for that is because we're making so many strides, is that there's new drugs that are available now for those in the early stages. And they have new testing procedures that are coming about, that are looking to be very promising, so that don't require, a lot of, MRIs and CAT scans and all of that type of thing. But yes, you want to be as proactive as you can for your loved one. And I think that's, having some concrete evidence, so to speak, is one of the things that you can push for to get your loved one to a neurologist or elder care physician.
right. Thank you, Melanie. I think, Linda, did you have, and welcome, Linda and Karina also joined us, so welcome. We'll get a chance to talk to you a little bit more soon, but Linda, did you have a comment?
Everything she said, I agree with everything
Yeah.
she says. We're deeper into it now.
Yes. Yeah.
Ken did go through the 4-hour test,
Mhm.
and we wouldn't do it again, but we were, he was up to doing it, and that was a few years ago. And it was kind of good. It kind of showed the areas that he still had a lot of strength in.
Mhm.
The more difficult part of the test, he did better in. The routine little puzzle type things, it wasn't so easy for him.
Mhm.
But I think you're right when you said, it's really up to the family. Documenting the things that are going on that you notice and take that to the doctor. It's not that, I think we're the ones diagnosing our loved ones, and we just take those results to the doctor. And what you said about progression and medication, and there's nothing for dementia. We have talked to the doctors, I have talked to the doctors, hoping to find something. And actually, Dr. Burleson, who is a top neurologist here in Austin, he has told me there's really nothing to do for dementia. So I'm praying for healing. Yeah, it's taking note of what the odd things are that they start doing.
Yeah.
My husband stopped driving, and it was really his choice. He decided.
Yeah.
But he hasn't given up his truck yet. It's his truck. He wants it, and it's our grandson drives it periodically, but he doesn't give up the truck. It's sit there. He likes it to sit there.
And that's
I'm
fair.
okay.
He's not driving it. Yeah, yeah, you
Yeah.
know, that's nice. Yeah, you know, to be driven is nice, you know, but thank you, Linda, for sharing that.
Yeah.
Bringer. I think everybody over here has, but definitely it's most another thing that I have heard where to kind of help you decide is it dementia or not is, you know, because we all forget. I know I'm the queen of forgetfulness. Sleep deprivation will make you forget a lot of things and will make
Yes.
will change, give you mood swings and
Yes.
change those
Even the
behaviors, right?
caregiver.
Yeah,
Well,
especially,
You
yeah.
start wondering about yourself.
Yeah, they do say.
Well, we all forget things, but you know, if you can retrace your steps, that's key, right? If you misplace your keys, but if you can think about, oh, I came in, I didn't put them on the hook or in the tray where I normally put them because my phone rang, I answered the phone, I dropped them somewhere else. So if you can retrace your steps back and locate your keys, you're fine. But it's when you can't retrace your steps and you find your key, you never find them, or you find them in the freezer or, you know, somewhere strange, then that's problematic. Yeah. Yeah.
And the other thing I learned from Teepa Snow was that they start to, they do not understand ideas, concepts. Time is one of those things. What is time? Can you hold? This is easier to remember. It's concrete, it's tangible, you see it, it's a pen. But if you say, you know, what is, I don't know, something that it's just an idea, a concept, you know, patriotism. I'm like, oh, okay, is this it? You know, I mean, get to that point. And another thing that I've used this as an example before. My mother, who did have some dementia, she was eating what I call blue furry food, and it's spoiled. And that, the neurologist said, that is dementia. That was not depression, because a person who only has depression would not eat that. You have enough brain power in there to know that's bad.
That's bad. Yeah.
May just think nothing of it, and you also lose your sense of smell when you're with dementias, and which affects your taste. So if you cannot smell, you can't really taste very well. They're connected, and they said, this is coming from research, one of the first clues that is really that indicator that it could be dementia is a loss of sense of smell and therefore taste. You know, so if you eat something, if you're congested and you go try to eat something, the food will taste different, because really taste is mostly scent, smell. Okay. Yeah, I never even connect those things, you know, but it also affects spatial things, you know, depth perception, all those things, like if you can't reach the glass, you know, that's a little bit more advanced. Aren't you proud of me, Melanie?
I am. You're going down those 10 warning signs. That's I should have my 10 warning signs list here, but yeah, spatial is one of them.
Yeah. So it's something that is kind of like out of the ordinary, that is just like, right, you know better than that. Then it could be, you know, something like, okay, well, maybe maybe that could be a sign of dementia of some sort, you know.
That-
So
That's
what do
why if you have people who wander, if you put that, dark mat in front of the door, it'll look like it might look like a hole to them, so they might not cross it, because they might have the fear that they're going to fall down into something. So that might just be a little tip, for if you have if your loved one is a wanderer. That's just a cheap little keep them contained idea.
and you know,
Um,
yeah,
I
good,
have
good.
a thought.
Yes.
It's one that kind of flips over.
uh-huh. Oh, the
and,
latch.
It's a latch that flips over.
Mhm.
So you have to actually pull it out and flip it back over to undo it.
Yeah.
It's too complicated for Ken to figure out, but he's staying there all the time watching. And I
Yes, I grew up, my dad installed those, so we grew up with those all the time. So it didn't phase him. He never lost that concept to undo that latch. And we had property, so he was always, in the mindset of, I need to go walk the property line. It's 13 acres. So that was like, nah,
Goodness, goodness.
yeah, yeah. So does
Linda has a question.
does someone have a question?
Yeah, I still, after all these years, I do not know the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia.
Okay, very good. Good question. So dementia is the umbrella term. So you think of a big umbrella, right? Umbrella. Alzheimer's is a type of dementia, just like that there's vascular dementia, frontal temporal dementia, Lewy body dementia, so there's different types of dementia. Alzheimer's is diagnosed somewhere between 65 and 85% of the dementias of the time. So it's the most popular one. So people know about it and hear about it more often than the other dementias. But dementia is the umbrella term. Alzheimer's is the most commonly diagnosed dementia. Like my dad had the Lewy bodies dementia, but then there's also vascular dementia. There's other types of dementias. So that's the difference.
Frontotemporal. Yeah.
Frontotemporal.
And and this is coming from Tam Cummings, because I watch her webinars.
Okay.
The dementias have all these different symptoms that are caused by the different diseases like Alzheimer's, Lewy bodies, all of those. The disease is actually causing, and it affects different parts of the brain.
Right.
So the frontotemporal will affect that front part of the brain, and that front part of the brain is in charge of certain activities like executive function, right?
Right.
And
So
behaviors. Oh, you take it because you know more.
Well, no, I mean, you're doing an excellent excellent job, but I was just going to just say that's why it's so important if you have a loved one who is if for those who are listening, this can be helpful to someone who is in the early stages, that you get an accurate diagnosis, because I'm sure you've all seen the studies that came out starting last year, the new drugs, the lecanemab, Aduhelm. There's even a third one now, which won't come to my mind right now, but there's 3 new drugs that help actually fight the underlying biology of Alzheimer's. So it's like, I liken it to a big toothbrush. So it brushes away some of the plaques and tangles in the brain of Alzheimer's. So that's why an accurate diagnosis of Alzheimer's in the early stage is key if you get the early diagnosis, because it only works in the early stage. Once you've progressed past that, then you're you know, there's still no cure, but it does reduce some of those plaques and tangles, which leads to a longer life, right? Longer lifespan and more time of more normal functioning. So, but like you were saying, is it Michelle? I think it's Michelle, that, you know, your neurologist had told you that, you know, there's not a cure to date. So at for most of us in the caregiving role, it's about comfort and care. But now there's promise on the horizon of we're pushing for people to be in the drug trials, because I was at the convention in January. We're in the age of cure. We're trying, you know, there's so much promise on the horizon because there's drugs on the horizon that's actually affecting the underlying biology of the disease. So the cure is on the way.
It's very hopeful, yeah.
Can I
Yeah.
just say, my
Yes.
mom had vascular dementia. She had a massive stroke and developed vascular dementia. And I would say as a caregiver, well, and I've read up on this, it's important as a caregiver, I think, to know the trajectory of the different types of dementia, because my understanding is Alzheimer's is much longer, much more of a gradual decline. With vascular, and we saw this with my mom, it was plateaus and dips, plateaus and dips, and her life expectancy was not nearly as long. It was 3 to 5 years, and she lived about 2.5 years. So just from a caregiver perspective, I think to kind of know what path you're heading down and knowing what you're dealing with was helpful. I mean, I'm all about the knowledge, and it helped us make decisions and kind of know what we were looking at with having a definitive diagnosis.
And that's exactly what I was saying to Melanie earlier. That is the value of learning and knowing this information to help you plan and adjust
Right.
decisions to make them something realistic, you know, and that I think from a personal standpoint, as a family caregiver, it helps us to deal and to cope with when you have, okay, if you want, you know, mom to be around in the next 10 years and do this and whatever, that's not realistic,
Right.
you know, and that's
Right.
for us to know those things. Okay, so this is what is possible.
Right.
So, and I think it also helps our loved ones, you know, because if we expect mom to do, my mother also had a stroke, and she lasted 5 weeks. That's it, you know. So, but it's like to expect mom to be able to do what she was able to do before that stroke, was just, she looked fine, you know, but she was not thinking, you know. So, so anyway, thank you both for sharing that. So,
Yes. Thank you both.
so
So did anyone is anyone's loved one still driving?
anybody driving?
Anybody driving? Okay. Well, just to give for those who may know some people, or if you run into somebody who's having this question, I just want to give you a couple tips from the presentation. It's better to make a plan early before accidents and things start to happen, right? So if you're in a situation where you can counsel someone on how to have that conversation, then they actually suggest that you, just like you do your legal documents ahead of time, do a driving plan ahead of time. So, you know, try and have the conversation with the person about, and I like to liken it to, you know how, and don't think of it as, okay, at this point, we're going to stop driving, but we're going to have a driving retirement. Just like pilots have to now retire at, I think it went from 65 to 67. So pilots have a retirement at 67. So perhaps if you've gotten this diagnosis, at a certain point, we know that we are going to have to retire from driving. And so before we start seeing accidents and fender benders and scrapes and tickets. So have a conversation about what the retirement, driving retirement might look like. You know, if there is, you know, that first accident or first, you know, or before that, or at a certain age. But then what is the transportation plan? Because you never want to leave a person without the ability to continue doing the things that they love. They still have to go to bridge and bowling, you know, they still have to get to the doctor, get to the grocery store, get to church, get to gardening club. So, you know, who's going to fill in that gap? So who's going to be their personal transportation, their personal chauffeur? It could be city transportation, it could be Uber, it could be Capital Metro has a program where you call and arrange a ride, but you know, that all needs to be in the, you know, driving retirement plan, and then with the option of the next step of what is the transportation plan. So just wanted to mention that real quick. And then, yes,
That's wonderful. I love it because the choice of words.
yes, makes a
Big.
huge difference.
Like, and even with everybody, you know, it's like, it's how you present things.
Yes.
So that requires, again, education and a little bit of, actually, for me, a lot of thought. You know, it's like,
Yes.
how am I going to do this? You know,
Yes.
from their
To St.
perspective.
David's driving school. Dr. Willison recommended that Ken go to the St. David's driving school.
Mm-hmm.
So he went, you know, and he went through the test, and then they take you on the road. He had to drive someone around. I would have been afraid of that.
Yeah.
Downtown, Austin.
Right.
Right.
But he didn't want to have to go back to the test.
Mm.
You know, he kind of had a sense of, I did it once, I don't want to do it again.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Something
So,
happened.
oh my gosh. Okay, well, I'm watching the time and I don't want you to be late, Melanie, but would anybody else like to ask Melanie, anything else while she's here? You know? No?
And I want to make sure that I've covered all the areas. So the last section is about the legal and financial documents. And so does everyone have their healthcare power of attorney, durable power of attorney, and the advance directive for their loved one at a minimum? Does everyone have those documents in place at a minimum?
Yes.
Obviously, you need those and your will and other things, but at a minimum, do you have those 3 documents in place?
So far, so good. Thank you so much. I think Linda did have a question.
Well, and it's mine is like, so Ken is, I would say, not at the end, but he's certainly advanced, and he loves to be around people. He loves to be engaged in things, though he needs help. He can't do it by himself. Are there things here in Austin, like programs that I could get him involved in for activities?
So have you checked out any of the senior community centers?
He's at a senior center right now.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Okay.
I'm looking to fill in Monday and Friday because that's how much he doesn't want to just.
Okay, there is Town Square up north.
I was about to say Town Square.
So fun. It does cost under $50 a day. But they have, unless you have a discount, but that's what you and I toured it and we wanted to live there.
It's very nice, and it's kind of a 50s style throwback environment. Yeah, there's a classic car as soon as you walk through the door. It's very nice.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, he would love it. I really truly think you can go up there and get a tour. And that in itself is an outing. They have a diner.
It is, yes.
And they have crafts.
For his birthday or something.
You know what?
Can't afford it.
But you know, exactly. So, but I would encourage you to take a tour.
And take Ken with you.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
go have lunch or something, you know, because it's up north. It's a drive, so make it a day thing, you know, and they are thinking of opening a second one, I think somewhat south by South Park Meadows, maybe, but I can't remember exactly where it is, but anyway, it's an outing in itself. The other thing I would say, again, another week, go to Shalom Austin. They have the JCC up there. They also have a lot of activities. They are so busy doing a lot of different fun things. I kind of veer towards theater and stuff. They have all that stuff. Of course. We gotta talk because yeah. But there are also the YMCA might be another one. The South Austin Activity Center, Senior Activities, SAC on South Lamar is another one. I'll give you a list because they have classes, they have dances, they have music.
Oh my gosh.
And people, I've been there, and so I'll give you a bunch of those things.
You know
Okay,
what? He wants to do this.
excellent.
And I think it's just stimulating.
Yes, of
for him.
course.
So
And we all need to be social.
yeah.
You know?
Yes. That's
So-
a key. That's one of the keys of, healthy living, brain and body, and socialization is a key in order to keep the person active and engaged. And so I just wanted to point out, I'm sorry that I need to kind of wrap up my segment.
Melanie, do you mind answering Eunice's question? She has her
Oh
hand
yeah.
up.
Oh yeah.
Well Med also has an activity center on West Bend White, and I have actually joined that activity center in the last couple of months. So they have different activities as well. And I'm actually doing cardio, and I haven't been able to do cardio for years. So they have different activities, have volleyball, bingo, exercise, Pilates. So that might be
Wow.
something you want to check out.
Nice. And so also give the check out the Alzheimer's Association. Give them a call. They may have some resources available to you to access Town Square a little more affordably. I'm not promising anything. But then also the alz.org where it says Community Resource Finder. So if you do alz.org/CRF, Community Resource Finder, just CRF, and then there's a search bar and you can type in whatever you're searching for, such as respite care. I heard some of you say that you're taking some time away. So if you're looking for respite care, that might be something to search. If you're looking for a particular place near you for skilled rehab or so you can search for that. It's connected to the AARP Safety Center. So that's a good resource from the Alzheimer's Association. And then of course you can find all of our support groups and training education programs. As we already indicated, the training.alz.org where you can find all of these programs, including this presentation that I gave you just a snippet of today, but you can find the complete presentation online. And then of course, our 24/7 helpline, which is managed by master's level clinicians 24/7, 365 days a year, no situation they have not encountered. And again, it's 1-800-272-3900. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a pleasure. Is there anything that I can answer before I have to say goodbye to you today?
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you so much,
Thank you.
Melanie. Be well, and I love education. My husband taught at university as well, so
Okay.
yes. Thank you so much. All right.
Thank you.
take care. All right.
Bye-bye.
And we can stop the recording.
Another